Ever wonder why we make the choices we do? Or what part of us decides to take the harder path when an easier one is right there? Well, the answer is in this incredible, highly evolved part of our brain that basically acts as its CEO. So let's take a tour of this amazing control center, the prefrontal cortex. Our story starts, of all places, way back in 1848 with a man named Phineas Gage. He was a railroad foreman, and his life, and really our entire understanding of the brain, was about to be changed forever by a totally bizarre and, frankly, horrific accident. So an iron tamping rod, we're talking over 3 feet long, was blasted clean through his skull. It destroyed a huge piece of his frontal lobe. And here's the crazy part. He survived. But the Phineas Gage who came back, he wasn't the same guy. His own doctor said his personality was completely different. He went from this responsible, well-liked leader to an impulsive and unreliable man. This case just baffled everyone and raised a question that neuroscientists are still unpacking today. How can a physical injury to a piece of your brain so fundamentally change your character, your judgment, your very sense of self? The answer, which Gage's case was the first real clue to, lies in the specific part of the brain that got damaged. And that brings us to the star of our show today, the brain's control center. We're going to map out the exact region that's responsible for all of these incredible high-level functions. And here it is. This is the prefrontal cortex, or PFC for short. You can see it's that whole front section of the brain's frontal lobe. But it's not just one big blob, it's actually made up of a few different areas, and each one has a really specialized job. This map is going to be our guide as we dive in. So what is the PFC, really? Think of it as the brain's great integrator. It's actually the most recently evolved part of our brain, which is probably why its functions, like complex reasoning and knowing how to act in social situations, feel so, well, human. It pulls in information from all over the brain and uses it to make judgments, to control our impulses, and to steer our behavior toward big, complex goals. To really get a handle on what it does, it's helpful to think of the PFC as the CEO or maybe even the air traffic controller for your brain. It is constantly managing a ton of complex operations at the same time, just to make sure everything runs smoothly. And these operations have a name: executive functions. So, what's on this CEO's daily to-do list? Well, it's helping you make tough choices, weighing the pros and cons. It's what lets you plan for the future instead of just reacting to what's happening right now. Super important, it controls your emotional drives. It's the reason you don't just start yelling in a quiet library. It also helps you adapt when the rules in a game change. It processes info you're holding in your head, that's called working memory, and it makes all of our complex social interactions possible. Okay, let's go back to our map and take a closer look at the different departments inside this corporate headquarters of the brain. We're going to take a quick tour of the key regions of the prefrontal cortex. First up, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, highlighted here in red. This region is a master of working memory. It's what lets you hold that information in the moment, like a phone number someone just told you. It's also absolutely critical for what we call cognitive flexibility, your ability to switch from one task to another or change your thinking when a situation calls for it. Next up, let's look at the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, which you can see here in green. One of its key jobs is motor inhibition. This is your brain's stop signal. It's the part that keeps you from acting on every single little impulse you have, giving you that crucial moment to pause, think, and then act the right way. And finally, we've got the orbitofrontal cortex, shown in blue. This area is deeply connected to our personality and our emotional life. It helps us figure out rewards and punishments and learn from situations that are emotionally intense. And yeah, you probably guessed it, this is the region that was most severely damaged in Phineas Gage. Okay, so we've seen what a healthy PFC can do. But what happens when this control center gets damaged or just isn't working the way it should? Well, the consequences, as Phineas Gage showed us, can be absolutely profound. So here's the bottom line, this stark contrast. A healthy PFC gives us good judgment, the drive to get things done, and lets us behave appropriately in social settings. But a damaged PFC, that can lead to apathy, a total lack of inhibition, saying or doing whatever comes to mind. And as this clearly shows, fundamental changes to a person's entire personality. Phineas Gage is the ultimate tragic example of this. And we're not just talking about physical injuries. Modern research shows that when you have reduced volume or activity in the prefrontal cortex, it's linked to some really serious neuropsychiatric conditions. We're talking about depression, where motivation and planning can be severely impaired, schizophrenia, which involves disordered thinking, and substance use disorders, which are really characterized by a loss of impulse control. When you put all of this together, it's almost impossible to overstate just how important this one brain region is. It's not just some processor. It is, in so many ways, the very seat of our self. This is what it all boils down to. The prefrontal cortex is what gives us the power to delay gratification, to choose the difficult path because we know it leads to a bigger reward down the line. It connects the little things we do moment to moment to our biggest, most complex, and most meaningful goals in life. And that brings us to a final, pretty deep thought. The story of Phineas Gage and everything we've learned since shows just how tied our personality, our judgment, and our character are to the physical hardware of our brain. So it leaves us with this fascinating question to chew on. If so much of what we consider our self is managed by this one area, what does it truly mean to be you?